Another writer of the period of the Enlightenment was Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope was born in London in 1688. His father was a Catholic, and because of his religion, Alexander was expelled from the public schools and universities due to the Test Act, as you remember, hopefully, from the previous videos. Alexander Pope picked up most of his knowledge from books, and though he read much, he never became an accurate scholar. Pope's first published works, the works that brought him fame and established his financial positions, were the translations of two works by Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Pope translated Homer's ideas, but he did not exactly translate them word for word. He translated them in the elegant artificial language of his own age instead, and he gave the reading public what it wanted, a readable version of the Greek poem in accordance with the taste of time. So he adapted the original text to the style popular in his times, in other words. After the publication of his Homer, Pope wrote some satiric poetry, but his best known and most quoted works were the Essay on Man, Moral Essays, and Essays on Criticism. All of these essays express more or less similar views. The purpose of these essays was to justify the existing state of things in the country. As you probably remember, Alexander Pope was one of those that supported the existing social and political order on the whole, and supposed that just a few reforms would be enough to make it good enough. However, in these essays, we can see that Alexander Pope was not blind to the vices of the bourgeois society that he lived in, and he did not hesitate to criticize it for all of those vices. Another feature typical for Alexander Pope's work is that he expressed his ideas in wonderfully quotable verse, and after Shakespeare, he's the most quoted of English poets, actually. Well, there is a whole list of quotations that have found their way into common speech, borrowed from Pope's works. One of them is to err is human, to forgive divine. It's a really popular phrase, and in Russian we have a similar set expression, but the original expression goes back to Alexander Pope. And summing up, I should say that in his lifetime, Alexander Pope was immensely popular. He was loved and adored by the public of his time, and many foreign writers, as well as the majority of English poets, looked up to him as their model. But later, at the end of the 18th century, when a new generation of poets appeared that wrote in the Romantic traditions, they criticized Pope's poetry for its rationalism and lack of imagination. Rationalism and a lack of imagination were things that the people of Enlightenment really enjoyed in their literature, but not exactly what the people of the 18th century, of the end of the 18th century liked. They preferred their poetry more emotional and less rational.